So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 steps that you can take in order to understand whether someone is a good connection, someone that you should add to your network, or a bad connection, someone that you shouldn't. So step number 1 is really understanding the value of your network. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is not really getting this concept. And so that's how they add random people, or they let people kind of stay in their network or stay in their phone, their contact list. People who have proven themselves not to be good connections. Either they don't, they're not generous, they don't help you, they're not nice people, they're nasty. There are people that, in general, we know we should stay away from, but somehow they remain in our circle. And so I really want to clear that up in this video. A large part of that is because we don't understand the value that we bring to someone who is in our network. The reality is there's something called the network effect, right? And some people know it as Metcalfe's law or Robert's law. What this means is that there are rules in effect that say that if someone is in your network, or the value of a network is actually exponentially increased by the value of everybody in that network, which means that if everyone is working together in the synergy, you may have heard the term synergy, synergy is what makes a network very valuable. Because when you introduce someone to your network, you are inadvertently giving them access, maybe indirect access, but access nonetheless, to all the other people in your network. And that's when it becomes very powerful. And all the people in your network work together, right? It's a trusted bond based on their mutual relationship with you. We've all done it, like let me introduce you to my friend, or let me introduce you to this contact. And that both of those contacts assume the best about the person based on their relationship with you. And that's why it's so important to only add good connections, or only keep good connections in your network. It's really difficult to know whether someone is good or not before you work with them, right? But once you add them to your network, it's going to be important that you only keep them there if they've proven themselves to be a good piece of your network, and they've shown that they will add to your synergy as opposed to reducing the amount of synergy. Because if you have a couple of bad apples, and I know that's an old statement, one bad apple can spoil the bunch. And that's true with your network too. 1 or 2 people who are bullies, or just generally not good people who don't reciprocate favors, tend to decrease the value of your network. So that's why I want to kind of talk about how we do that. And so the way you do that is I'll cover this in step number 2, is understanding what your values are. So I know I talked about value, which is the size and strength of your network, the power of your network. That's the value. The values are the glue that keep the network together. When you think about what your core values are, right? Trustworthiness, generosity, authenticity, empathy, kindness, those type of words are your values. And so you want to find people to add to your network who have similar values. Now, of course, it would be impossible for everybody to value the same thing at the same level. However, you can select people to be in your network, or continue to have relationships with people who have similar values. So if you find out that someone isn't trustworthy, or they're just not generous, it's mine, those type of people you want to remove from your network. But what you have to do first is really identify your own values. And it's something that you shouldn't just take for granted. Do the work. I always recommend to my clients that you actually Google a list of core values, and online there's several different sites that will have lists of value words, and sometimes there'll be 50 words or 100 words, and within there you should pick 4 or 5 that really resonate with you. I mean, what is really important to you? And then as you start to build your network, you'll find people who those words are also important to them. You find people who would never, lie intentionally or steal or not reciprocate a favor if someone is asked of them. So that's why it's important. First of all, you have to identify what your values are, and then find people who have similar values. So the third step is really understanding where you're trying to go. Again, it's something that you can't take for granted. The people in your network should be there for a specific purpose. I remember in church, you used to say people are in your lives for a reason and a season, and so find the people who can help you get where you need to go. And so that comes down to really identifying your goals. But as you're identifying your goals, where do you want to go over the next year or 5 years or 10 years? Also identifying the people who can help you get there. Right? We all have a budget, right? A financial plan, or you have a business plan or a career plan, but very few of us have a people plan. And so what a people plan is simply as you're listing your goals and you're deciding on where you want to be at a certain point of your life, also having a column for the people that you either have in your life or the people that you need to meet. Sometimes you can have a specific name or just a type of person who will, if you had them in your life, would make your journey much easier. And then we'll go about finding those people. So that's important, that you have to understand where you want to go and who you need to have. Because that's also another way of understanding whether somebody's going to be a good connection for you. If you have someone in your contacts or in your network who, isn't going the same direction you're going, they're not going to attract the type of people that you need to attract to your network, if they're not going to be the type of person who could add synergy based on where you're trying to go, then you want to limit your relationship with those people and just focus. And limit the relationship probably sounds harsh, but the reality is that you only have so much time and energy in a day. And there's actually a limit on the number of social relationships that you can have. There's something called a Dunbars number, which was invented by a guy named Robin Dunbar back in the 80s. He did studies on how many simultaneous social relationships a human being can have. The number is about 150. Now, of course, that's going to differ for different people. But when you think about if you could only have 150 people in your life, who would those people be? We never give that any thought. But if you do give it some thought, then you can kind of focus on those relationships that will bear the most fruit. So those are the 3 steps I wanted to give you today on how to understand whether someone is going to be a good addition to your network or a bad addition to your network. I think about, how birds fly. They always fly in a triangle, right? Because the bird up front is breaking through the air and pulling everybody with them. But they take turns, right? So everybody in the flock takes a turn at the front to break through the air and make the job behind for the other birds a little easier for a while so they can get some rest. And that's what you want to think about your network. There's got to be people who can break through the air for you, right? You got to have people like that who are dragging the whole network, the whole team, the whole tribe along with them, right? For a little while, right? You don't want to have anybody feel like they're doing all the work all the time. But you want to have people in your network so you're not the person doing all the work all the time, right? So that sometimes you can fall back and let them do some work. So I use that analogy quite a bit when you think about networks. Networks are supposed to be active. They're supposed to be helpful. They're supposed to serve a purpose outside of just calling people when you need to sell something or you need to raise money. It's about building relationships that are synergistic so that everybody works together and has the benefit of your network. So if you enjoyed this video, I'll be doing them every week. Wanted to put this out, give you some good content. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you get something out of this video. But definitely look at the other videos in the channel that are getting ready to pop up right now. All right, have a good one, and I'll see you next week.